Okay, so let's continue some physics programming. Actually, today I'm not going to do any physics programming itself. What I'd like to do is actually get some real-time performance metrics up on the display. So what I want to do is get a display of the actual body count in the physics world. And then also I want to get a real-time display of how long it takes for each world physics step. And I want to get that displayed in milliseconds. So I'm here in the game class. Let's go ahead and create some variables for this. So what I'd like to do is over the course of 1 second, on average, how long does it take me to do one world time step? And then I also want to record the number of bodies over that 1 second period. On average, how many bodies was the world processing in that time step as well? I'm going to make a variable for the total body count. And then I also want to record a double, that's the total step time or world step time. So over the course of 1 second, this will be the total amount of time that we spent processing the physics step. And this is the total number of bodies that were in the physics step as well. And then I want an integer that's going to be the number of samples over this 1 second period. So I'm going to call this the total sample count. Okay, so let's scroll down here and let's start recording how long it takes us to go through a step. Okay, so here's our actual physics step, and we are recording the amount of time between each step. After I record the amount of time it took for this one step, I'm going to increment the time. That'll be the total time, world time step. We'll just increment this by the current time it took. Let's increment the body count. So the total body count will just be whatever the world was processing this step. So we'll just get the body count. And then I'm going to increment the sample count as well. Okay, so every time that we run a step, we're going to increment the total number of milliseconds that it took, the total number of bodies, and then the actual sample count. All right, and now what I want to do is I want to update this information on the display every second. So up at the top here, I'm going to make a new timer, and this is going to be a stopwatch. All right, so I'm going to call this the sample timer. And I'm actually just going to initialize all of these values right here at the top of our class. So everything's going to be initialized to 0 to start. All right, so now we can store all of the sampling information or the performance or diagnostic information. In our update function, I'm going to scroll down here. And then what I want to do is if the timer that we just created, so that's our sample timer, if the elapsed total seconds is greater than 1, we're going to actually update the display. All right, and in order to do that, I need to convert this information into a string that we can see. And so at the top here, let's go ahead and add a few more variables. So we're going to have the world step time string, and we'll have the body count string. Okay. And these strings are actually what's going to be displayed. So every 1 second, we're going to update these strings and display the new information. So let's go back down to our update code. So here's after 1 second. Let's go ahead and update our strings. So the body count string is just going to be equal to the average body count. So we're going to get the total body count and divide that by the number of samples that we took. And I want this to be a double. And then we're actually going to round this value so we don't get too many digits. Let's get a total of 4 digits max. And then I want to convert this to a string. Okay, and then the world step time string, we're going to do the same thing. Let's get the total world step time. Let's divide that by the total sample count, because we're just trying to get the average. We're going to take the total step time over the course of 1 second and divide it by the number of samples we took. And let's round this value as well. And we'll round it to 4 places and convert it to a string. Okay, next we need to reset our values. So the total body count is going to be 0. The total world step time is going to be back to 0. And then the sampler timer, or the sample timer, we need to reset. And I think that's everything. Let me scroll back up to the top and make sure we are resetting all the necessary values. Okay, so we're resetting that one. Oh, we need to reset the sample count as well. But I think from there, everything else looks good. So let's reset the sample count. Okay, so now we should have the information. We just need to get the information on the display now, and we're going to use MonoGame for that. So over here is our content file for MonoGame. I'm going to open that, and I'm going to create a new font file. All right, let's go ahead and add a new item. This will be a sprite font description. I'm just going to call this Consola 16, maybe 18. Let's do 18. And so Consolis is the type of font, and I'm going to make it, the size is going to be 18. We'll open it up and make sure everything looks like we want it to. Okay, so let's make sure this is Consolas. And the size is going to be 18. Okay, we can save that, and then I'm just going to build this content file. All right, now we should be able to load this Consolis sprite font. So up at the top here, let's go ahead and add a sprite font. And I'll just call this font Consolas 18. And down here in the load content, let's go ahead and load it. So now we have this sprite font. We're going to go ahead and draw our information. So I'm going to scroll down here to our draw command or our draw function. And underneath everything here, let's see. So here we're drawing our shapes, our actual physical shapes from the world. Then we're drawing the contact points. Underneath all of that, let's go ahead and draw some font information or some text. Okay, I'm going to use all the default values for this. And we're using the sprite batcher to draw fonts. So from the sprite batcher, we're going to draw a string. Okay, there's the font we just created. And then we're going to give it the, let's give it the body count string first. All right, the position is going to start at 0. And the color is going to be white. Okay, so this one's going to be the world step time string. So how long on average it's taken to perform a world step calculation. Now this one's going to be at 0 on the X, but we need to move up a little bit on the Y, and I don't know how far that's going to be yet. So let's calculate that. So we're just going to make it white just like the other one. But let's calculate the actual size of these strings or how tall these strings are. And so we can use the font Consolas 18 and we can measure string. And we'll just give it the body count string to measure. This is going to give us a vector 2 that's going to tell us how big this string is. So after we draw the body count string, I want to move up to the next level, or I want to move far enough on the Y up so they're not overlapping. In the bottom left corner of the screen, we're going to see the body count and then also the world time step, or how long it's taking us to perform the time step on average. And actually, let's go ahead and label these. Oh, and I don't want to do that here. I actually want to update that in our update function. So right here, let's go ahead and add a title to this. So this will be the body count. And then this one's going to be the world step time. So let's do, I'm just going to call this the step time. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see if we actually get the correct information. Oh, I'm not seeing it right now. Let's see what the problem is. Oh, our strings are actually empty right now for some reason. Okay, so they're not getting updated. We may not actually, oh, we never actually started the timer. Okay, so this sample timer here, I never actually started it. So let's go back to our initialization function. And we need to start the timer. So just at the bottom here, I'm going to start the sample timer. Okay, and now we should start seeing values. Okay, so we have the body count and the step time. On average, it's taking 0.0024 milliseconds, and I think we're in debug mode right now. We are, so I'm going to switch that to release, and let's just see what kind of performance we're getting. Okay, there we are. So 0.0016 milliseconds with one body. Let's go ahead and add some bodies here and just see what happens. So we have 15 bodies. It's taking on average 0.34 milliseconds to step through the world. Here's some more circles in there. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to get an actual real-time display of how long it takes to step through the world or to perform a physics step, and also get the body count as well.